Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you can hear us and see us. We'll be starting in just a moment. I've got a fair bit to talk about this week, surprisingly.
Just looking at some of the recommended YouTube, I don't necessarily miss doing YouTube videos. I mean, we always did them as a side gig for the site, so it was never like
Yeah.
our main job, and that was
Mhm.
fine. But I'm just reading the titles, like Houthis attacked the wrong U.S. fighter jet, then this happened.
Yes, clickbait. Yeah.
The real reason Windows is free and what that costs you. Toyota just humiliated Elon Musk, and Elon completely loses it, all in caps.
Yeah.
It's just like,
It's annoying, but it works. That's the problem.
yeah, that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
It's just that, I don't know. No matter what you do, you got to be a slave to some algorithm somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. If it was a perfect world, we'd just have a front page audience that just came to our channel or the Windows Central website and just read the content there and didn't have to find it through Google.
It's true. Okay. I'm all set.
Me too. I'm ready to go.
All right. 3, 2, 1, clap. Welcome to the Windows Central podcast, episode 365 for April 24th, 2025. Hey everyone, Dean Rubino here, joined with Zac Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central podcast. We're back after not being here last week, but that was mostly due to the fact that there wasn't just a lot to talk about. So this week we're back with the latest on Windows 11, of which there have been some new developments, which we'll catch you guys up on. Edge's new tab page powered by Copilot. Lots of Copilot stuff is going to be happening, I think, very soon. PC shipment surge. This is the second report we have about that, and we'll kind of break it down as to why. Intel cuts, oh, there goes my voice already. Intel cuts 20,000 jobs. What we want to see from the Surface Pro 12, so this isn't those new smaller ones, it's the actual proper replacement one that's going to be, we're pretty positive is due later this year around the holiday season. We'll go through some of the big reviews we did, and then at the end here, I'm going to just talk about some hardware I've been using or getting that I'm really excited about, including the Magic Pad, which is technically an Android device, but hear me out. And then I also got the Asus A14, which is something I've been really, really waiting for. And was I disappointed or not? And then also this new thing called an Aura display. Well, it's got a wackier name, but I'll go through that because I don't have this yet, but I'm super excited about it. And I'll explain why. Zac, how are you doing on this fine Thursday here?
I am not too bad. I am looking forward to having a break. So on that subject of doing the podcast on and off, next week is up in the air whether we're going to do one. I'm technically away next week. If I can find the time to jump on and do a podcast, I absolutely will, but I don't know for a fact if I'm going to be able to do that just yet. So podcast next week may or may not happen. If it does happen, it'll be on the Thursday or Friday like usual, but we'll keep you updated on the socials. So follow us there if you want to know when we're going live. But yeah, I'm supposed to be on vacation next week, so I'm looking forward to that. A nice rested break. I'm going on a 2-day cruise, I think, from England to Hamburg in Germany, and then I'm jumping on a train from Hamburg to Berlin and spending a couple of days in Berlin before heading back home. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Nice. Sounds like a good one. Hopefully you'll have a safe trip. At least you don't have to worry about coming back into the United States. All of us are getting a little nervous about taking international flights, even though I'm a born here citizen. That stuff is just getting creepy because it's just like there's some guy who I think he was a naturalized citizen or something. Or no, he was here, but he was on a parole kind of thing. And he accidentally went into Canada. It has to do with if you're in Detroit, he was doing deliveries and stuff like that. If you live on the border kind of in the US, it's very easy to take that wrong turn and then you're just on a road that goes into Canada. I've done this before in New York. I accidentally got on a bridge that went to New Jersey and I had no intentions of going into New Jersey. So he went to Canada and then he quickly turned around, but they wouldn't let him back in. And then they put him somewhere and then they shipped him off somewhere. And I say somewhere because they don't know where he is. Like no one knows
Wow.
where he is. It's just
Jeez.
like, oh my God. Like, so I don't know. Weird times that we're living in. But we don't want to talk about that because it's all depressing. So let's go into something less depressing, which is Windows 11. What's going on there with the latest updates?
Well, it's still pretty depressing, actually. Nothing, nothing really. There were a few new insider builds this week, but there's nothing super interesting here. So, dev and beta got a new build 26120 or 26200.5562 or .3872, depending on which ring you're in. But these builds basically receive the exact same features. So, the new notable things in these builds is a new text action in Click to Do, which ties into the Reading Coach and Immersive Reader apps, which you can download from the Microsoft Store. If you download and install them, when you highlight text in Click to Do and right click, you'll get an option to practice reading and practice in Reading Coach or read with Immersive Reader. So that's going to be handy for those of you who utilize those apps and also have a Copilot Plus PC. They're also rolling out finding photos saved in the cloud using AI, sort of natural language. So in addition to that, working with pictures on your local machine, it should now also work with files synced to OneDrive as well, which is really nice. And that will work directly in the Windows search box. So that's really nice. And then there's some improvements for voice access and stuff, but generally it's a lot of minor stuff here. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with Windows recently. There's really not been a lot going on for Windows. I was hoping that maybe next month we'd get a Windows event or some kind of moment where Microsoft announces sort of the big 25H2 release that's supposed to be coming later this year. But so far, we've not really seen anything in regards to what 25H2 might entail in regards to big new features that warrants a new version release. We sort of have suggestions and we've seen hints that 25H2 will be an enablement package type update. So it won't bring with it a new platform release. It's going to be just built on top of the 24H2 platform release. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a small update. It could be a big one, but we're yet to see, in regards to features that is, but we're yet to see anything on that subject. You know, we've been testing all the Copilot Plus stuff, and that technically hasn't even began rolling out to production yet. So Microsoft is behind on that as well. You know, if there were big plans for new Copilot Plus features, when do they get unveiled? Do we have to wait for these, recall and Click to Do and AI search to ship first before Microsoft is able to move on and start announcing, Copilot Plus Wave 3 or 4 features? Or is it, are we not getting that? Is this just what it is for 2025? And if that's true, then I'm going to be quite disappointed. I'm hoping that's not the case. But yeah, it's been quite slow for Windows in the last few days. The Canary channel also got a build, but again, there's nothing in this. And to be fair, I'm going to have a rant about the Canary channel in a second, because this channel sucks right now. And if you're in there, get out of it. You shouldn't be in there. There's no reason to be in there. Microsoft seems to have the problem with the Canary channel is that it gets things last these days. Sometimes in some instances, even after production. Right now, Canary doesn't even have recall or Click to Do. The release preview channel does. Every single channel apart from the Canary channel has all the Copilot Plus features available for testing. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Microsoft says they roll out features in different channels for different reasons these days, but the Canary channel has been especially sort of neglected in the last handful of months, in my opinion. And so if you are a new insider and you're trying to figure out which ring you want to go for, don't go for the Canary channel, because even though it is technically the top level and you would think it gets the most features, it actually doesn't. It actually gets things often last. And that channel's only good for really underlying platform changes. That's the channel where you will often see new sort of kernel level changes and security updates sort of show up there first. But if you're actually somebody interested in surface level features, don't go there. You want to go to the dev channel or the beta channel for features, because that's where Microsoft...
Or be like me, I'm team RP. I put release preview on everything. I'll get a new laptop for review. I put it into release preview. Arguably it's super safe. You're getting stuff 2 to 4 weeks sometimes ahead of everybody else. Mm-hmm. But you usually get the latest drivers and some features. And I don't know. It's just like what I prefer. My only problems with the beta and dev channels, I've said this before, it's just because I don't typically stick with one laptop long enough to enjoy the features or check what's going on. And then what happens is I go pick it up, and it just that one, it will just be permanently on there, right? Because then if I ever want to go back to release the regular release channel. You got to wipe the device and start all over again. So, which isn't a huge deal, but it's just like an extra thing. And then sometimes I even forget which device has something on it.
And
right
the problem,
now, yeah.
So the problem with A/B testing as well is that because we do move through devices
Right.
so quickly, we don't often see the new features because we're on a device for 2 weeks to review it, and then we move on. And in that time, we don't get given access to the A/B test or whatever new feature's been announced. Like Dan, for example, was just saying for the podcast that he only just got access to the phone link in the start menu, which has been in testing for I think half a year at this point. So actually, yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I was surprised by that. It was which laptop is that on? Oh, I think that's on the Lenovo X9 I'm using. I think that's it. Yeah, so what Zach's referring to is there's this new feature. Is this feature officially coming or it's still like testing? They don't know.
It's still testing, but it's been in testing for so long that I'd be surprised if it doesn't ship. Like it's one
Okay.
of the, they've been working on it. They've been adding improvements to it. Like they've added a send files button to the bottom of it and stuff. So
Yeah.
they clearly want to ship it. Just for whatever reason, it's taking such a long time to get it out the door, which I guess isn't a bad thing. I guess they're testing it for quality and whatnot. And to be fair, it's always controversial when you add a new element to start. And so maybe they're just taking the sort of conservative approach to rolling this out. But I agree. I think this is great.
And for those curious what we're even talking about, so there's this feature that's coming that's when you launch the start menu, it's like a sidecar of phone link that's attached to your start menu that provides all the relevant information of your phone right there without having to go open phone link separately. Let me see if I shared the image recently. I got to put it on my socials, but yeah, so it'll say like Daniel's S25 Ultra, and shows it's connected, shows the Bluetooth and battery, shows if I have any SMS messages, like the little circle dot notification, missed calls and photos, and it shows recent, which includes, in this shot was 3 photos, but it could also show missed calls and that kind of thing. And then there's a little bottom at the button at the bottom called send files, where you can open that up and drag and drop things to send to your phone. I've said before, I use Phone Link all the time. It's one of my favorite features. It's very reliable. I've never had an issue with it. My favorite thing is, as someone who switches between Windows devices a lot, I just turn on my device and it just connects. I don't have to do anything, and it always works. So having this in Start, I think just looks way cooler. And we should be clear, if you don't want this, of course, you can turn it off. But I really like this idea of, that phones are so important these days. And granted, Microsoft, as we know, doesn't have its own mobile operating system. But the next best thing they can do is just make Android integration really tight with Windows as much as they can, working around Google's limitations. But I think despite the fact that they don't own Android, I think what they've been able to do with this has been really kind of clever, because especially on a laptop, it means you can completely just really leave your laptop, your phone in your pocket, which when you're traveling, sometimes it's kind of a thing. If I'm in the back of the car, so the phone is so big sometimes, it's like it's a pain to go get it out of your pocket, But if I don't need to do that, and especially if you have the Samsung phone and you want to use it as a hotspot, like that shows up just in your Wi-Fi connections by default. And so you can just select it and it'll turn on your hotspot for you. So like that kind of integration is just really nice. And I think it just looks great. My only disappointment right now is that, I only have it on one PC. So I really do want this on all of them, because, it's something I'm going to use quite frequently. I'll also say that being on release preview, my Copilot Plus PCs, namely the Qualcomm ones, but I think some of the other ones too, I'm starting to get the big features. So Recall is now in release preview. And if you haven't seen Recall, granted, they spend months, working on the security aspect and doing all that kind of stuff, which is great, but they also really polished the UI. And Recall is one of the prettiest apps I've ever seen from Microsoft.
It's really nice. Yeah.
It's really, really cool looking, has nice animations and acrylic effects, and it's just great colors. And I don't know, it's just like, I don't even use it very often, but when I open it up, I'm like, I want to use it because it just looks so great. But as I said before, what's nice about having that feature. It's like, especially, because at the Copilot Plus, it's using your NPU. You don't even know it's running, right? I mean, you see the icon in your tray there, and it shows it's running, obviously. But what I mean is, like, you don't ever notice a performance hit. Like, you can't tell that this thing is doing what it's doing, which is pretty bonkers, right? The idea that screen capping every few seconds, every 10 seconds or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, like the fact that it's doing that, and then like you can use machine learning to search through it, and you don't feel it at all in terms of performance, I think is just totally wild. It goes to show you how powerful the NPUs are. I also say I got Click to Do finally, which I hadn't tested, and Click to Do is pretty awesome as well. Like it is like Circle to Search, but kind of way more than that. Or I don't know if it's necessarily way more, because you could do things like you can extract text from whatever you're looking at on the page. Of course, you can do image searches with it. They did add it to Snipping Tool, which is great. Snipping Tool I use like all the time. I'm always using Snipping Tool, and the fact that it's there is really good. But like these AI features, I think are really awesome. Now the stuff in like Microsoft, oh yeah, like one of the cool things you can do with Click to Do is like you could, so how it works is like kind of like the snipping tool almost. You just like highlight something on the page you're looking at. So if you're looking at a photo, you can just highlight the photo. And then like you can right click and you get a bunch of options. One of the options is the one that's in MS Paint, but it's built in directly here, which is remove background. So if you highlighted a portrait photo of someone on the web, you could just right click, hit remove background, and it'll just extract just the person without the background. And then you can just copy and paste that anywhere you want to, which is just like super useful, and it works really well. I don't know. It's one of the, I think, most useful kind of productivity things I've seen that's coming from Microsoft. So things like that, the phone link, and all the other Copilot Plus features, I think are just really awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing what else they come up with, but obviously they want to, we gotta be careful here. We don't want to throw AI just in random stuff all the time, and we may see some things disappear, right? Because they may release this stuff and then maybe people don't use it. And then they may remove it at some point. But like I joked around, they put Copilot into Notepad, and it seems kind of silly, but at the same time, it's actually really useful. And just having it there not only looks good, but it just gives you that neat option.
I'd say I would like to see more local Copilot functionality, like a lot, like
Yes.
recall and click to do is local functionality. AI in search, I believe, is also local functionality. But the things like Copilot in Notepad, and obviously the Copilot app itself, and Copilot 365, and all of the Copilot in Paint and Photos, that's not on device. That's all cloud powered. And so that technically runs across any PC, not just Copilot Plus PCs, but it does mean you need to be connected to the internet. And so that can sometimes even be a slower experience than if you did have an NPU with a local LLM to power that. And so I would like to see more of these Copilot features sort of become local features as well,
Right.
utilizing some onboard local LLM or SLM. And then if need be, reach out to the cloud for additional compute power if necessary. That would be a nice addition, like this hybrid approach, I guess. But right now it's all or nothing. It's either fully cloud or it's fully local, and there seems to be no in between. And it's like, why can't we have both?
And Nadella has said on record in an interview that he sees hybrid as really the solution and the future of this stuff. So I think they're absolutely going to do that. They're going to, for your personal information, the security reasons, they'll stay local, but for other more powerful things and like maybe just image editing or something, that could at times reach out to the cloud for different models or something like that. So yeah, you're right. I mean, they do need to do a lot more with but we talked about that before, like what a Copilot OS would be, right? This idea of like building in deeper into the operating system itself, so then it becomes more useful there. Obviously, I think they're definitely going to do that, but it's going to take a matter of time. I'm sure they want to try to get these features right, but it's also going to be a lot more engineering than simply just creating an app, which is kind of what we have now. But even that, like Copilot app is still, it's gotten a lot better in the last few weeks, but there's still like a lot of things like it can't do. Like I find it funny, like I uploaded a photo, like a drawing, and I asked it to create it into like a realistic photo. which is pretty standard practice for generative image stuff these days. And Copilot was like, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't handle your photos." Like, really?
Why?
Like,
Yeah.
so I go to ChatGPT and just like upload a photo. Like the big thing you guys don't know, and that's been going around, is in ChatGPT, people upload photos of themselves and ask the AI to make them into an action figure. And like, and it's so bizarrely good. Like you literally will look like a GI Joe action figure, and depending on how you describe how you want it, like it puts in the little like items and stuff like that, and different titles and stuff like that. But like it's a really funny thing. But like on Copilot, you can't do that because you upload an image and it doesn't do anything, which is just bizarre because obviously we have Microsoft Paint. So I think we need to get a little bit more there too. But I know I don't have Vision, the one for mobile yet, which is when you turn on the live camera and go around the room, you can ask it, have a real-time dialogue. And that's not to say, like Google just did this too, right? So Gemini has this, but it's only available on some Pixel phones. And if you're like a Gemini Pro subscriber, I believe, you get it. But it's the same thing, basically. You launch the rear camera and the AI stays like within the camera. You can have like a conversation with it and ask it about what you're looking at, all that. I know I did only like just one test. I took a picture of something on my desk, and Google was a little bit better at identifying it. Like it saw the name kind of printed on it, and I think it used that as a key to look up what it was, because it's not something like you would know necessarily what it is, what it would be for if you looked at it. But Copilot was like, it just described it, but didn't have any idea what it was actually for, and kind of got the answer wrong. But it goes to show you both companies are working basically on the same stuff here.
Yeah, almost at the same time, really. I just noticed, because obviously with the 50th event, Microsoft announced Copilot Vision for Windows in addition to Edge, which was already announced, which lets Copilot see your screen and sort of not really directly interact with it, but at the very least offer suggestions and highlight buttons for you to click on and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. I thought it was ahead of the game. Apparently not. Gemini on Android already does it. I don't know if that was rolled out straight after that announcement or if it was available before. But I press and hold on the Gemini button, and there's an option to share your screen, and you can do the exact same thing Copilot Vision does on Windows, but on your Android phone. So and that's not using the camera; it can see your screen, it can see your apps and stuff. So it's very interesting to see how quickly these companies technically one up each other. If Microsoft announces a feature, Gemini and OpenAI are not far behind. If they might already be ready to press go on those features and sometimes do that. And so it is interesting that all of these LLMs and all these AI features are they basically all do the same thing, really. Except apparently everyone thinks Copilot's worse. This is an editorial I wrote this week, or last week now, where it seems like Microsoft is inadvertently pushing power users away when it comes to AI and LLMs and stuff.
Yeah.
When I found I found people online talking about Copilot, and one of these hypotheticals, if you could delete one from existence, which one would you delete? And most people were choosing Copilot because they don't see value in it. They see it as basically a clone of OpenAI, but oftentimes a worse clone of OpenAI because it doesn't use its own LLM, which isn't technically true. I mean, it is technically true, but it's also
it's a mix. Yeah,
it's a mix, and also we know Microsoft is working on its own full replacement to sort of distance itself from OpenAI. But Microsoft in the last half a year or to year has sort of moved away from trying to prioritize access, it being a platform for accessing the latest LLM, and more about the experiences that are built on top of that LLM. And so, with the new redesign that came about last year, plus the event we just had, and Copilot Memory and Avatar and all this other stuff, is really designed to make Copilot a more human, more sort of accessible tool for general people. Microsoft advertises it as an AI friend, whereas OpenAI and Gemini and DeepSeek and all the other AIs sort of advertise themselves as an AI tool. And that's a distinct difference, AI friend and AI tool. And Microsoft is going down the AI friend route. I think that they're trying to look ahead, and they foresee humans actually interacting with AIs like friends down the line. I personally don't see that happening. I find AI most useful as a tool. I don't want to spend any of my spare time talking to an AI about my day or my feelings and emotions about things. Never going to do that. Microsoft seems to think people will. And so they're going down that path. And I think that's the wrong path to be going down.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this kind of endlessly before, the agentive AI thing, which everybody's going to too, because agentive AI is a step above generative AI. Generative AI are just large language models. It's a culmination of like, I would say the world's knowledge, but it's technically whatever it had access to for training. And you're just asking it questions, and it's just taking all that info and condensing it into an answer for you, basically. Literally, these things, a generative, chat thing is just search on steroids. It could also, of course, generate a story for you. Or there was a funny story going around today about how you can make up basically idioms and ask Gemini, like, what does this mean? And it would give you the meaning without telling you, like, technically this doesn't exist as an idiom. Although it goes to, I used to study, like, that was one of the things I focused on actually in linguistics, was formulaic language and idioms and these kind of things. And then it goes to show you, though, how, like, you could literally just make up these weird sayings and still derive meaning out of them. Like, all the ones that they were using as examples, like, you could be like, that's a real idiom. But the ability to not be able to tell you that idiom doesn't exist is an issue. The other issue, of course, is when it gives you answers to stuff, it would be really nice if it gave you a confidence level in that answer, right? Like, I'm 90% sure I'm correct on this. Because right now it's kind of all over the place. But the agentive AI goes up, it's a level higher, right? So the big part of this is the memory feature, which everybody's doing now, right? So Grok has introduced this. Copilot is getting this, but it's the idea to remember key facts about you, so that every time you go back to that conversation to go converse with it, it knows you more and more. And I think, some people are going to be weirded out by this, of course, and it'll always be an optional thing. But this is where it goes to the next level, where I know what you're saying. Like, some people do want it to be like a best friend, right? There is like that whole subculture right now, people dating AI, and it's like a significant thing, right? It's not like 3 people. So there are those, but this is more or less just so that it feels more like you're talking to someone who knows you well. So if, like, you mention, hey, what's this new movie? And, like, what's it about? Or is it any good? But you talked to it about movies before and what you like and stuff like that. Like, you'll be able to give you a recommendation based on things you like. And I think that's really kind of cool and taking it to the next level. And then, of course, yes, there's the stuff that they announced with the avatar stuff, which, again, I don't think you have to do, but you could give a face, quote unquote, to your agentive agent here. And part of it will be, some will be self-defined, like they'll give you a subset, and then later on they're going to allow you to create your own avatar. I think that's really neat, though. I think people are going to really use that a lot. I think, of course, everybody's going to be like, I named mine Jarvis, and it looks like the one of Iron Man. People are going to someone's going to do Hal, of course, and make it look like Hal. So people are going to go down that route of, like, doing clones of stuff. But I think that creativity and the ability to make it your own is going to be a game changer, because right now, Copilot it's a Microsoft, it's Copilot, it's branded, it's a tool, that kind of thing. It's very kind of impersonal. Same with Gemini and all these things. But if you can give it an avatar and a look and even a voice and all
And
this
a
kind of
name,
stuff.
an actual
And a
name, not a
name.
title.
And and it's like, they got to be careful too here that they don't overlap too much with what Clippy basically was trying to be, right? But that's exactly what it's going down that route of turning into that, except really useful. But this idea of, like, you could have almost like a Tamagotchi living on your PC, and it'll be like a little thing, and it can just jump in and help you out and answer questions, and it knows you. That's going to really take this up to the next level, and that requires a lot more processing power.
I've always said I feel like the ultimate goal, and where I want AI to head, is AI that works automatically for me in the background. It should be ambient. It should be automatic. I shouldn't
proactive.
have to, I shouldn't have to prompt it. I don't want to spend time telling it what to do. I want it to just know what I want to do based on my actions and context that I'm currently working on the computer. We're not there yet. I don't think any AI is there yet. And so as far as I'm aware, Siri definitely isn't there. I don't think OpenAI, I don't think Gemini is doing that. Copilot's definitely not doing it. But I'm hoping that's the goal. what to get to this
I
ambient
mean,
AI.
because like if you think about it, right? Like if you told your agentic AI all your favorite bands or
Yeah.
movies you like and books you read and stuff like that, like I always had this issue because the world is so complicated these days. It's like I'll go on Spotify and I'll be like, oh, one of my favorite bands released an album 4 months ago. Like,
Yeah.
I had no idea, but the idea of like, if I had an AI that's like, hey, you really like this band, their new album's coming out on Friday. Do you want to, save it or something like that? Or, seems like movie trailers are dropping every 10 minutes, especially for like the big tent pole. And it's just like, hey, did you see the new Star Wars trailer just came out today? I know you're really into Star Wars. Like, oh, thanks. I would like to, know that. So yeah, I think that's the route it's going to go down. It does require a lot of processing and a different system than LLMs. So that's the area that everybody's trying to race to next. But that's going to be the next evolution. I will also say there was a funny story that we covered, I think it was a week ago, talking about, I think you and I talked about this, whether you say please or thank you to the AI when we're chatting it. And so like, yeah, just from where I'm from like Connecticut, like we're just very kind of polite that way. So I always do say thanks or, hey, could you please do this?
Yeah.
But it turns out that every time you do that, or like sometimes if you like, it gives you an answer and people just go like, thank you, which I don't do. But like, and it responds back, like all that costs like money and processing power and gallons of water for cooling of the GPUs. And it's just like, it's not insignificant when you have like hundreds of thousands, maybe a million people being polite to the AI. It's costing all this money, which is just such a mind-blowing thing to think about. So yeah, maybe
But this is why Copilot and stuff should have handoff to the local NPU for basic queries like that. There's no need for it to go to the cloud for it to process a thank you. The NPU should just be able to receive thank you, automatically answer back you're welcome. Like it doesn't need to be a complex exchange. But these are the ups and downs of this technology, is that even simple queries become this massive complex thing that the AI has to process and use all these resources to give you an answer to, whereas a simple Google search can do the same thing, a lot of the time. So yeah, they need to find balance. It shouldn't just be all the horsepower all the time for everything you ever ask it. They need to be able to, I guess, scale what kind of resources this specific query needs. And so yeah, it's still early days for this stuff. I mean, let's be real, it only really picked up in the last couple of years, all this LLM craziness. So, we're still figuring it out.
Yep. So cool stuff. Is that it for the Windows 11?
There is, and since we're on the subject of Copilot, we can probably move on to the next topic. This won't take too long, but it looks like Microsoft is working to implement Copilot into the Edge new tab experience. In the latest Edge Canary builds, if you go into the flags page, everyone's favorite page, and you type NTP, you'll find a whole bunch of toggles in there. If you enable all of them and restart Edge, you'll find that whenever you hit the new tab button, you'll be taken to a page that looks very similar to the Copilot website, but it's basically just for the new tab experience. So it has a chat box in the middle, and you can begin typing your internet query into that, whether it be a search or a website, whatever it may be. It'll give you a little drop down, but it's all designed like Copilot. And if you type in like a Copilot-esque query, like a question or a thing you want it to look into, it will do that for you automatically. It will move you to the Copilot website to actually process that, but you can do it straight from within the new tab page. It will still show you your top websites, but curiously, it does remove the entire MSN feed, which is an interesting choice. Maybe
I think I had it, like I saw this happen on one of my browsers and I like forced it back to MSN.
Really?
Because I like the MSN feed. Like I do. Like I'm one of those people, like I've said this before, like if you do customize it and use it, and like it's actually really good. It's not that different than like Google. Like even if I go watch a trailer or something, I notice all of a sudden I start to see stories about that movie popping up, which is totally fine by me. It's like, oh, cool. I do want to know that story,
Yeah.
So I actually do really kind of like that. I will say though, it's kind of interesting. Getting back to Copilot on mobile too, they did have it at first, like whenever you launch it and would go to that like that news of the day screen.
Yeah, the website still does that. It's just the app doesn't, to my knowledge. At least on
no,
Windows.
the app does. But it's not. It's you have to hit the icon in the chat box.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
So it's like a sub page now. That's strange.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they did that because I know people like myself never used the other thing. I appreciate it. I think it's kind of a cool idea, and it's neat that they tried it. I know Ben Wilson, one of our writers, does use it pretty frequently. So I'm kind of glad they're keeping it, but maybe they won't. But yeah, they now default to just the search page on mobile. And I've also noticed now like the keyboard pops up automatically when I open the app, usually, which is kind of cool. But you also get all the new different features. So, but yeah.
But yeah, so that's the new tab page. It's very interesting. Again, this is in testing, so it's not been officially announced yet. It might not ship, but it is an interesting change for the new tab page because, like as we mentioned, it's currently basically an MSN landing page plus a search box with the weather and your top sites. And so they're getting rid of so far at least the weather, the MSN stuff, and it would just be the composer for the Copilot, so you can chat into it or type into it, and your websites, as well as a bunch of what are they called? Like suggested sort of prompts that you can just click on to just automatically put into the chat box, which is kind of interesting. And I'm guessing they're doing this to try and increase Copilot usage. I think Microsoft doesn't want the user to think an internet search is any different from a Copilot search. They would like you to think it's one of the same thing. And so that's sort of what they're doing there. It's like, hey, if you're typing into a search box, you're using Copilot. And so Microsoft can tell everyone that there are millions of Copilot users who are just using it to do a simple internet search. But, I guess that's
it really does seem like they're moving away from Bing.
Yes, which is very funny because obviously when this first started, it was announced as Bing Chat, and Microsoft very proudly told us that they thought the Bing brand was valuable and worth this technology. And then look at where we are today.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see. I mean, Bing.com is still more convenient than probably typing in Copilot.
Yeah,
but it's going to be really interesting to see if it does stick around as a service or just gets completely absorbed by Copilot, which I kind of hope it does, to be honest. Bing is cool. I have nothing against it. I obviously use it all the time, but I think Copilot is just kind of better. I think I like the icon better. And I've said this before that I think it's weird just to do web searches these days. Like, unless you're searching for something like you just know exists and you're just looking for something specific. Like sometimes if I need to find an article on the site, right, I'll use it for that.
You know what? But I just realized. Sorry, go on, Dan.
I was just going to say, but yeah, when I'm doing like normal, I want to learn about something. Web search to me is just bizarre. Like why would I do it at this point?
I checked this 2 or 3 weeks ago. 2 or 3 weeks ago, Microsoft did not own Copilot.com. It was some consultancy agency. They own it now, and it redirects to Copilot to Microsoft.com. So I guess some deal was made there. But I'm wondering if originally they never went down that path of rebranding Bing was because they couldn't secure the domain, which is a big deal. I don't know if you realize this. If they can't get Copilot.com, it would be really risky to rebrand your entire search engine as Copilot. They now have Copilot.com. So I'm guessing some money was exchanged there. Someone had a nice payday recently. So congratulations.
Although what's funny is they redirect it though.
They do redirect it, but I don't think they'll do that for long. Now they have it. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure this just changed in the last few weeks. Let me look at the Wayback Machine because I'm pretty sure I checked this 2 weeks ago and Copilot.com did not point to a Microsoft product.
Yeah, for now, for what I'm talking about is if you do type in Copilot.com, it redirects you to copilot.microsoft.com.
Yeah.
And it basically just looks like the mobile app and the app itself. It's the blue background looks just like it. So
yeah. So yeah, Copilot back in this is a Wayback Machine from January, was a client portal software solution for businesses. It was some enterprise thing. So in the last, again, I'm pretty sure this has happened in the last couple of weeks. Microsoft has acquired Copilot.com quietly and probably given someone a lot of money for that. And so, yeah, that's really interesting.
So maybe we will see Bing go way of Copilot.
Do you reckon we've called it? Like that's the strongest evidence, I think. Them owning Copilot.com suddenly is a big reason to push forward with rebranding Bing.
I mean, it makes sense. They've already kind of redefined search with the Copilot stuff. And I think they're just going to slowly phase out the branding. And it's just going to be, eventually you'll go to Bing.com and they'll just redirect you to Copilot.com, right?
Yep, exactly. And I would argue that the Bing brand is unsalvageable anyway. It already has that sort of meme status of being Bing. Like, why would you Bing anything? Like, I
still laugh. There's the Family Guy clip if you go to YouTube and type it in the Bing map car. And so like It's so funny. It's this like jalopy car that's like bouncing around and has cameras. It's just really junky, and it's just going around the neighborhood doing the photo stuff for Bing Maps. And like everybody wants to get in and like pose when it comes around, and so it becomes a subplot to the story. But the way they portray the car is just it's really kind of mean, but it's funny. But yeah, I think this is going to be. I think that's what they're going to do. And now I think about it, yeah, Copilot.com. I mean, it's only Bing is just it's pretty a little bit shorter, but going Copilot makes sense, I think. So it's a better search. It's overall a much better name for what Microsoft is doing. And we said this before, like one reason I really like it is just all the endpoints where this thing exists. Some people consider it ridiculous, but I think that's its strength is the fact it's everywhere. But it's better than Gemini. Like I don't know how they're going to, like Google's going to switch away from, I'm going to Google that to I'm going to Gemini that. Maybe, I don't know. It's going to take some time though for that to happen.
Yeah. For those wondering what happened to the Copilot business solution, they moved to copilot.app. So they still exist as a business, but yeah, they no longer exist at copilot.com, which is very interesting.
Cool. All right, let's move on. PC shipment story. We'll just go through this quickly. There's two groups, Canalis. No one knows how to pronounce their name. It's really funny. They did a report a couple weeks ago. Basically, it was a 9.4% year-over increase for PC shipments. Breaking it down, it was 10% year-over-year for laptops and notebooks, and 8% for desktops. The lead, of course, was Lenovo, 15.2 million shipped. So this is shipped, not sold. And we'll get into that in a sec. 15.2 million shipped, followed by HP, which is 12.7, Dell at 9.5, and then Apple at 6.5. So again, I always have to drive this point home that people think Apple sells a decent amount of laptops. I don't want to like knock it, and their profit margins are higher. There's no doubt about it. But Apple sells 6.5 million. Lenovo alone sells or ships 15 million. That's a big difference. And then if you add Lenovo, Dell, and HP together, it's like, what is that? 15, 30, probably like 37 million. So it'd be 37 million versus 6.5 million. And I'm still leaving off Acer and Asus and Razer and of course Microsoft and all the other sub brands. So that was interesting. And then there was another report that came out just recently by Counterpoint. They also they had a little bit lower as PC shipments increased by 6.7%. So it's a little bit different, but it was still an increase. Now the reason for this increase is there's a couple of reasons, and we've been talking about this for a while, that at least as far as expectations go. One, of course, is Windows 10 is coming to end of life. So there's going to be a lot of people who will need new computers. Now, if you're a consumer, you're probably rolling your eyes like, no, I don't, and you're probably true, right? You have options there. But if you're enterprise, you do have to, they're going to have to get these new devices, especially if they want to be in support and have security and all that kind of stuff. So there's an expectation that a lot of enterprise shipments are going to go up for, a couple months, a year, maybe, as companies phase out their Windows 10 devices, and bring in new Windows 11 ones. So that you're going to get a lot of sales that way. Two, of course, the AI PC thing. I know people again roll their eyes at it, but it really is kind of making a difference. I think Canalys did a report saying that, and I think Counterpoint mentions it too, that it is driving sales, not like a ton, but it is becoming a main thing. And the more we see these AI features, like, let's be honest, right? That was the joke. AI PC, Copilot Plus PCs came out, but half the features didn't come out with it, right? It was like almost like Apple Intelligence. So we're just getting recall now. We're just going click to do. So when people start seeing those features and how that's only on those devices, like I have a desktop with a Core i9 and a 4070 or 4080 in it. And like, I don't have those features on here, right? Which is kind of crazy, but I can have like a $900 PC that runs a Qualcomm chip will have it. So that's going to drive stuff. And then there's also the fact that that's just the upgrade cycle that we saw a lot of companies and people buy laptops in 2020, 2021 with the pandemic. And now you're coming up on the 5-year. And 5 years is usually the time frame for a lot of companies upgrading. So the expectation here is you're going to start to see this increase. I would also argue just technologically, CPUs and battery life is just getting incredible now. Like for the first time, we're getting laptops that feel like the dream of what a laptop should be. The cameras are getting really good. The audio is getting good. All that's happening too. So I mentioned that these are just shipments, and that's really important because it doesn't equal sales. Now, a lot of this increase is also anticipated because of the tariff situation. A lot of companies bulk shipped stuff in. So if the situation in China doesn't resolve itself, they will at least have stock on hand to sell. Because then there's always this issue. If you're Dell and you didn't ship enough in, and there's tariffs are 125%, which if tariffs are that high, even in double digits, it's a boycott at that point. Like no one's going to be buying a laptop for 2-3 times the cost of it. But if you're Dell and you didn't bring enough in, like those customers may be going like, HP, you got something for us? And HP's like, oh yeah, we brought enough in, so we can fulfill your order. That's really dangerous for these companies because they have these contracts and stuff, and they need to keep these companies happy. So I think they're going to be. So that means we may actually have a glut of some PCs in the coming months, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. But I do expect overall, at least single-digit percentage growth for next year for PC, and then it'll probably go back down because the PC industry, just like smartphones, is basically flat at this point, outside of getting new devices every couple of years. So.
Yeah, and I do foresee a lot of Windows 10 consumers just sticking with it even beyond end of support, like because not everyone can afford to upgrade their PC, frankly, and so they will not have a choice but to just keep using their Windows 10 PC out of support, and that comes with a bunch of risks, of course, but it is what it is, and it happened with Windows XP, it happened with Windows 7, and it will happen with Windows 10, and so it will just take time for people to get off the platform.
Yep. So there you go. That's that. Intel cuts 20,000 jobs. I didn't even really look at this too much, but
I've sort of got the lowdown on it. Yeah. So a report by Bloomberg says that Intel will soon lay off more than 20% of its workforce. They have 108,000 or 109,000 employees currently at the end of 2024. So that's roughly 20,000 positions up for being fired. Unfortunately, this comes after Intel cut 15,000 jobs last August. Under the previous leadership. So yes, I believe Intel has a new CEO now. They were briefly had 2 CEOs. I think they finally settled on one. I'm not too sure about that. But Intel's not been in a good place in the last few years. I think it's fair to say they've had a rough couple of years, and so they're laying off 20,000 jobs, which is not great. And just like the Microsoft cuts, which have been rumored, this is targeting middle management, which Dan mentioned was a trend in the industry right now. They're trying to cut back on jobs that aren't specifically engineers or coders. They kind of want less of that. And so, more people report to fewer managers, which may be more work for the managers. I don't really know how these companies are going to navigate this, but a lot of these companies seem to be taking aim at middle management. So if you are currently a middle manager at your job, be scared because they could be coming for you next, unfortunately. But yeah, no, it's never fun when people are being fired. But this does happen. The tech industry is cutthroat when it comes to layoffs. It happens almost on a yearly occurrence, usually around the same time as well. And so you can sort of predict these coming. And so Intel is next on the schedule by the looks of things, unfortunately. But yeah, not too much more to say on that. Any thoughts, Dan?
No, but just like I said, it's a trend, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And there was a report this week talking about Americans are like most fearful for their jobs since basically COVID, but even some of the numbers I think past that, like people are even more worried than COVID just because of the kind of chaos that's been going on. Front page of Drudge right now is talking about how home sales are plummeted. Like no one's buying houses and no one can sell houses and all this kind of stuff. So there's definitely a big kind of slowdown happening. And yeah, that, gets everybody kind of worried because I don't know. There's a lot going on. It sucks for Intel, but they're going through a big transformation at this point. And, they got to get leaner a little bit more, get the fight back in them. I will say, and I've said before that, they catch a lot of crap, but then their second gen Core Ultra chips have really impressed me. They're really good. I still prefer Qualcomm.
Yeah.
But the Intel chips, like in terms of battery life, are really pretty competitive.
Yeah.
Like I'm really surprised about the amount of battery I can get out of them. I like Qualcomm's a little bit more. I think they're a little bit more efficient, a little bit better on heat. And I find some aspects of like the operating system and Edge actually operate better under Qualcomm. But that's not to say that the Intel stuff is slacking. But I think they're on the right track for their CPUs. They're not miles behind, despite Qualcomm, or Qualcomm may want you to think. I would say they're getting close to that. That said, Qualcomm's about to announce their their next gen Snapdragon X Elite chips, which we do expect to be a significant bump. They're going from the Orion version 1 cores to Orion version 3 cores, which we haven't seen yet. I heard they are very competitive with the Apple M4 processor. I don't think they'll necessarily beat the M4s, especially when you get up to the Pros and stuff like that, but they don't need to. Like, you and I both have the Surface devices. Like, you give me a Surface Pro 12 with an M4 processor, that's totally fine, because I love the current processor. The current processor is like insane. So it's like, all this stuff is kind of interesting. But Intel's biggest thing, of course, is the fab business and making chips for others too. So that's going to be a big turnaround for them.
Yeah.
But okay, speaking of Surface Pro 12, Zach, why don't you tell us what we want to see Surface Pro 12?
So yeah, I wrote this story Windows Central this week, at some point in the last few days. Just a roundup of thoughts and things that I kind of want to see in a next gen Surface Pro. If we think about the generations of Surface Pro we've had sort of 3 distinct areas of design of form factor. We had the sort of first gen and the second gen, then we had the Pro 3 to the Pro 7, and then the Pro 8 to the now, essentially. That's real. So we've had 3 sort of different eras of Surface form factor design, and I think we're coming up on, it's time for change again. It's time to push the form factor forward a bit more. How can we do that? I was just thinking sort of on top of my head, where can they go next? And there are some key areas. The Pro 11, I think, is almost perfect, but there's some room for improvement. It's not a 10 out of 10, no notes kind of device. There's definitely improvements that I want to see made to the Surface Pro, and I'm hoping these get made to the Surface Pro 12. I have been hearing whispers that there may be some redesign on the cards for the next gen, but this is more just speculation slash things that I want to see in a next gen Surface Pro. So first of all, I want to see uniform bezels. Now, don't mistake this for thinner bezels, because that doesn't necessarily mean that. I just mean the bezels along the top and the bottom should match the sides. If that means making the side bezels slightly thicker, so be it. I just want the bezels to be uniform. They don't have to be razor thin. They don't have to be super thick. Just somewhere in the middle, somewhere modern enough so that they look uniform on all 4 sides. If you look at an iPad Air, I think the iPad Air is the goal. I think you should be aiming to make your tablet look like that in regards to screen to bezel design. The Surface Pro 11 currently is not that. The chin and the forehead, much thicker than the sides, and I just think it looks a little bit ugly and dated, especially with the rounded corners that the Pro 11 has on the display. They don't match the radius of the actual chassis. Very minor details, but I think we're at this point now with 11 generations in. The 12th generation should really start focusing on these sort of minute, small design details that are, in my opinion, quite important, but I realize most people wouldn't notice. So that's the first thing I'm hoping to see, is uniform bezels. I'm also hoping to see the device get thinner and lighter. I think my biggest criticism with the Pro 11 is its weight. It's too heavy. It's too thick. I don't like it. I think it's, as a tablet, you can't use it one-handed. You get sore arm quite easily. And it's just quite thick. It's just not as sleek. If you hold it up against an iPad Pro with M4, it just looks so old and outdated. With that paired with the thicker bezel on the top and bottom, they look like they're from 2 different leagues. And while I'm not expecting Microsoft to bring it down to the level of thinness that the M4 iPad Pro is, I would like them to try and aim for the Surface Pro X. The Pro X, I think, was perfect. I think that's the most futuristic Surface Pro we've ever had. It was, I think, 7.1 millimeters. And much lighter than the current Surface Pro 11. So if we can get back to that or closer to that, I would be very happy. Of course, the Pro 12 will likely have a fan in it still, so I know that Microsoft really is sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place there. I wouldn't mind a version without a fan, because I'm never going to push a Surface Pro beyond it needing a fan anyway. And so if I can trade not having a fan with a thinner, lighter chassis, I would absolutely take that. And so, I would love to see the Pro 12 be thinner and lighter. I'd also like to see 5G at launch. I think one of my biggest pet peeves with Surface is that they will always do a 5G version later. It's like, why? Well, why not make the necessary preparations ahead of time so that the 5G version is available to buy at launch? Because diehard fans like me and Dan, we want the latest device as soon as possible. We don't want to have to wait 3 or 4 months for the 5G version. It's like, come on, I'm willing to give you the extra money now for the 5G version now. So just let me order it now. Even if it ships 2 weeks later, that's fine. But any longer than that, Microsoft, come on, let's just make the necessary preparations. Apple can do it. You can buy a 5G iPad the same day it's announced. I don't know why Microsoft isn't able to do it.
The only reason I can think of, and it's a really dumb reason, but I can kind of get it, and it's probably a carryover from the Panos era, is to do a 5G version, you got to submit it well in advance to the FCC for approval. And
then.
Yeah, I think they were worried about people snooping around.
Oh,
because
no
it's not like
one
Microsoft
truly
released
cares.
a ton. Yeah, no, it's not like Microsoft releases a ton of hardware. So
Yeah.
like you see something starting to go through the FCC, it's like, it can only be like a couple things, right?
Mhm.
And I think because the Panos era was so secretive that
Yeah.
might have been a reason. I'm not really sure, but like I know that process takes a little bit longer than obviously just doing Wi-Fi. So that may be a reason. If it is, I mean, it's obviously a dumb reason because you're right. I don't think people care that much anymore about Surface stuff. And that's not to say that it's because the products are bad, but we're in the era now where they're not doing crazy hardware, right? There's no Duo, there's no Neo, there's something like weird coming out that people are really excited about. So maybe.
Yeah. And then the other thing I really want them to do is equalize or rather reduce the feature disparity between the Intel and ARM ones. There's a really weird thing going on with Surface right now where obviously the Snapdragon versions are both available in both consumer and business models. The Intel ones are only available for business, but the Intel ones have some additional things that the Snapdragon ones don't have. So the Intel ones have an anti-reflective coating. I believe that it will have a 5G option on the laptop side. But not on the Surface Pro side. It's like there's very strange, just oddities in regards to which device has what, and I would like to see that go away. I think with the next gen Surface Pro, I would honestly like to see them offer both Intel and ARM for everyone. Like I don't know why.
Well,
go on.
You say like I don't know why, and the only reason I can think of possibly is the price disparity. It seems like Intel chips are just more expensive. We've seen this, I've used this example before, like the XPS 13, Dell had both the Intel version and the Qualcomm version exactly the same, except the Intel version, I forgot whatever price that the Qualcomm launched at, but the Intel version only had 8 gigs of RAM and it was like $200 or $300 more.
Right.
And the Qualcomm version had 16 gigs of RAM. So it was like that they after a couple of weeks fixed that, so they evened out the price. But either Intel was charging more or these companies were charging more for Intel. I'm not really sure, but it seems like there's a bit of a price discrepancy going on. Part of it is also, I know Microsoft tries to be a little bit even and try to give everybody, they don't want to play favorites necessarily. I also know they don't do it based on like, do they like the company? It's like they test the chips and it's whatever chip they decide is the best. I think with the Qualcomm stuff, they hedged because the business would want the x86 versions, possibly because of compatibility and no issues with printers and stuff like that, which could still be an issue for Qualcomm. But I think, you saying having both available that causes a few problems. One, it's very confusing to a customer because most people aren't going to know what the difference between Intel and Qualcomm. And possibly the limitations of Qualcomm, which I would say are less and not as important on these devices versus something else, but they do exist, right? So there's that, because you'd be like, wait, should I get the Intel? Should I get the Qualcomm? And we're kind of seeing that with the laptop, right? We had that theory that people were buying both the Intel and Qualcomm laptops and returning the Qualcomm ones, which caused that flag on Amazon. So there's that. There's also just simple supply stuff, right? So we know the Microsoft doesn't sell a ton of Surfaces, especially not in retail. and they don't have the stores anymore, of course, either to kind of push them. And they don't even do a ton of commercials anymore. I don't remember if I saw commercials for the last release of the Surfaces. But if you offered both, you would have to basically, like, if you're going to order 100,000 Surface Pros, like,
Yeah, I
you
see what you
do
mean.
like
Yeah.
50,000 Intel, 50,000 Qualcomm, and hope that you sell evenly. It really complicates the SKU situation. You would have a little bit more control over that when you're ordering online direct from Microsoft, which is why you can go technically order the business version. But in terms of retail, like, you go into the store and you'd have like Best Buy, like, you have both versions. It's like, so they really like to control that supply because they got burned years ago by having too many Surfaces, and they had so many left over that when the next generation came around, they had a bunch, and you don't want to have that situation. So I think that's kind of part of the reason too.
Yeah, I guess you're right in that regard. I think in that case, what I want is just both models to have the same features. If the Intel one has an anti-reflective screen, I don't see why the Snapdragon one can't have one. And it would also be nice if, in that case, the for business models with Intel could launch at the same time as the consumer ones with Qualcomm.
Right.
I realized that didn't happen with the last gen because obviously it was a big deal for Windows and ARM to have its moment there, but also because the Intel Lunar Lake stuff wasn't ready. Like, that came later in the year, and so Microsoft couldn't launch Intel versions back in May 2024. But I mean, and I don't really know what Intel's schedule is versus Qualcomm's. I know we're expecting the X2 to sort of debut in September this year, which means we could see the Pro 12 as early as October this year. I don't know if Intel will have a new version of Lunar Lake ready by then.
It.
Yeah, we're not expecting it. So maybe that can't happen for those reasons. But it would be nice in an ideal world that we could just day one, business version Intel, consumer version Qualcomm, both have anti-reflective screens, both have the same features, both are available 5G, both have, I think it's really annoying that the upcoming 5G Surface laptop is Intel only and for business only. Why? Just bring that to Qualcomm as well. I don't know why that they're not doing that. And so that's just really annoying. And I just want I want it to be a fair game. Everyone has access to the same features and functionality. So that's kind of what I'm hoping as well. And then last but not least, I want them to make a red one. That Surface Laptop 2 in burgundy, I think, is my all-time favorite Surface ever. And I want them to make a Surface Pro in that same colorway, and also a new Surface Laptop in that same colorway while we're at it. So Microsoft, if you're listening and you're looking for colorway suggestions, get rid of that ugly gold color and make a red one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and to be clear, like, the colors that they choose are based on, there's research every year talking about what what the big color is going to be this year, and like what's in and what's out. Like pastels are a little bit more in, and this and that, right? So they're definitely like trends for colors, and it's weird to know what's driving it. Does the industry drive the trend because they create it and people want it because it's different, or is it just people like prefer a different color? I don't know, but I can tell you that, like, the only reason I can think of they got rid of the burgundy version was because it just didn't sell as much as like the silver and the black version. I think a lot of people still just want the basics. Hopefully that's different with the current blue version that they got, because that blue is just amazing looking. And I think it looks really, really nice. That said, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no to like a burgundy too. It would be kind of cool for Surface Pro, because when they did that was for Surface Laptop 2, I think it was. They did the burgundy version. For Surface Pro, they just had the matching, I think, keyboard that went with it.
Yeah.
But they weren't doing the chassis colors yet, right? So they've never done like a red chassis or any kind of like, which that would look really cool with that colorway. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So those are my sort of top of mind things that I really want to see in a next gen Surface Pro. I think if we can achieve all of these, or at the very least the design changes, thinner and lighter, uniform bezels, at that point, I do think we have perfected the device, and there is nowhere else to go. There's no, the ceiling. We've hit the ceiling at that point. Other than folding it, the screen, like that would be the Surface Pro perfected. It can't get any better than that. Unless, Dan, have you got any thoughts as to what you would like to see on a Pro 12?
No, I mean, I've been, my review of Surface Pro 11 was the only thing I wanted was 5G. And then, of course, the anti-reflective display. That was, I think, my really only dream things that I wish I would do. And you're right, they did the anti-reflective, but on the Intel version. And Yeah, so hopefully they just do those things. The bezels, I see the argument, but I'm not like, I don't really care that much. But sure,
This is the problem. People don't care enough, and it's like, come on, guys, just care a little bit.
No, like I said, like I'm sure if they did it, I would like it, right? I think that to thin out the bezels a little bit would be kind of cool. Oh, the only other thing I would want probably is that they don't do, surprisingly, is the human presence detection, which is
Yeah,
strange.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's because, though, I think that's just design limitations, because you would have to jam in more sensors into what's already a pretty compact thing, and that would cause a redesign for that entire module. And so maybe they just didn't want to do it. But it's weird because it's kind of a banner, I would say, premium flagship feature, but not necessarily. When I talk about another laptop soon, I'll explain. But it's a neat feature that only Windows laptops do. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, it's not the camera. They have like a sonar sensor and something that like detects a human form in front of the computer, and they can have it even like HP does it. So if another person walks behind you, it'll alert you on the screen. It can even blur out your screen as a security precaution. So HP does that, which is pretty cool. But you can have it so when you get up and walk away, you can set it for like after 30 seconds. If no one's detected within 4 feet, it'll automatically lock the PC, and then it'll turn the screen off. And then what happens is when you walk back in front of it, that sensor is always like on until the device hibernates. But then if it detects a person, the screen lights up, and it then goes to Windows Hello and then logs you in automatically, and the screen just flips up in your back end without ever touching it. If you're ever cooking in the kitchen and looking at your computer for a recipe, it's very useful. But it's also just kind of a cool feature. And something Qualcomm devices do and Intel devices do. Surprisingly, AMD devices don't do this. But I'd like to see them do that. It's not something I live or die by, but it would be cool to have. So.
Someone in the comments is saying, "How about a 14-inch Surface Pro?" I know I see people asking for a bigger one, like a 14, like a Surface Ultra, which I don't know. I'm definitely not the target audience for that. I don't think.
We've talked about that before. I would like a 14-inch. I agree with that, but that's probably just because I'm just getting older. But like, they have such good displays. Like, yeah, give me an extra inch to look at. Like, 14-inch is considered the ideal size for laptops. Surprisingly, Europe has been on, like, there were more 14-inch laptops in Europe than the US, which is weird. In the US, it was always like 13.3 inch, but now we're hitting. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably not wrong. But we've now shifted towards 14 inches being the norm, which is good because I like 14-inch. But having a 14-inch Surface Pro would be cool because, well, you could do a couple things. One, if you kept it the same thickness and just made it bigger, you could be able to put a much bigger battery into it, and that extra 1 inch wouldn't really negate the battery size in terms of powering the display. Or you can make it thinner and keep the same size battery, which may be doable with these new processors. You're not going to really notice a difference anyway, right? So then you can get that thinner Surface Pro. I think that'd be neat. I guess, yeah, but then you got to redesign. You got to get another keyboard and all that kind of stuff. Like, but I wouldn't mind them doing that. Surface Pro XL, though, that's all I got to do, right?
Yeah, true. So yeah, that
reminds me too. The big mystery that Zach and I are still trying to figure out is these new Surface devices that are coming out soon. The ones that Zach's been like reporting on for months about the smaller sized ones. There's two questions. One, like, are they really just 12-inch or something like that? Because is that going to be enough of a difference? But then we had that discussion about the thermals. Like, if they have a closed system, it's like Pro X, it could be a much thinner device and there'll be a different experience, but then performance won't be as good. Or they could just have passive cooling, which would make it a little bit thicker, or they could have a fan in there, which makes it even thicker, right? But like, we don't know what they're going to call these devices.
Yeah.
I don't know. We should have a contest, like, as to the name.
You'd think Surface Pro Mini and Surface Laptop Mini, but they're not small enough. This is the problem. They're only an inch smaller, roughly, or maybe a bit more than an inch smaller. Like, why would they be called mini? They're not even that small. Surface Pro. No, it's just No, because this is what the name of the Surface Pro is. Like, it implies it's the Pro version of Surface, but then what is the non-Pro
Yes.
Surface? It's like, it's not the Surface Go, because that's the Surface Go. What is just Surface? And there isn't just a Surface, it doesn't exist. Maybe this would just be called Surface. It'll be the
Yeah, but then what do you
this
call
is
laptop?
Surface. Good point. Oh no. I don't know what they're going to call it. I bet you any money they just literally call it Surface Laptop 12-inch, 13-inch, 15-inch, or Surface Pro 12-inch, 13-inch. Bet you that's what they do, which is so lame.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, the Surface Pro Mini, because then they sell the Go series,
right? And which, as far as I know, the Go line is not disappearing. So
yeah. So then it's like, how does Go stack up with Mini? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't. In my head, there's no logical connection.
Well, to be fair,
like,
it's no different from what Apple does with the iPad. You've got the iPad Mini, which is technically technically better than the main base iPad, but not as good as the iPad Air, which has always been a strange thing to me. So you can get technically a bigger screened iPad for cheaper than the iPad Mini. It'll be the same thing here with the Surface Go, wouldn't it? And the Surface Mini, but a Pro Mini. It'd be like, well, the Pro Mini is technically better than the Surface Go, but it's like, so annoying.
You guys can message us on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever your thoughts and guesses on this. I'm really kind of curious because I have no idea. Like, it's so funny because this has to be like a challenge every time you release a new product. God knows we don't have to bring up Dell's situation with what their revamped naming scheme and the controversy it caused. So
if they really want to double down on the whole, these are like travel buddy devices, they could call it Surface Pro Copilot and Surface Laptop Copilot.
Yeah, but then it implies the Surface Pro 11 doesn't have.
It's true. It really does. Nothing that no good. There's not a good name for these devices. There just isn't. It's impossible.
Yeah, and like you're right. They may just call it like Surface Pro 12 and Surface Pro 13, but then like we had that issue with like, but now what about the version number?
Yeah,
which they've gotten away from.
Yeah, I would say they already do like 7th edition and 11th edition, so maybe they'll just keep doing that. So it would be Surface Pro 12, 11th edition. I guess technically 1st edition because it's the first.
No. Now you got to change the editions and they don't match up, right?
Oh, no.
So, but yeah, that might work. Surface Pro 12 1st edition. Of course, they would just call it Surface Pro 12. They wouldn't call it 1st edition.
And that's going to be confusing because when the Surface Pro 12 does come later this year. Oh
wow.
No. Yeah, sorry, Microsoft marketing team. Good luck figuring this out.
Yeah, it's like going down a maze and every turn is like a wall. You're like, oh wait, no, that's not going to work. Wow, crazy. If you guys have ideas, let us know because I'm all out of them. It's a big challenge, but looking forward to. Should be kind of cool too.
Yeah, they should be coming soonish now. We're getting towards the end of spring, and I heard that they should be announced by the end of spring. So
yeah. Should be cool. All right. Review roundup. Yeah, we'll just go through this real quickly. Although now I gotta bring up the page again. So of course on Windows Central we do a ton of reviews. This week we got the Asus ProArt PA27 JCV. Rolls off the tongue. It's a 27-inch 5K display, which is really good. And obviously ProArt is good. You know, it applies what it is. But got an Editor's Choice Award from us. That's the highest you can get on Windows Central. So it's higher than best. So that got a really good review. We also reviewed the Death Strike GK760 keyboard, solid keys and poor handrest. The Corsair Void Wireless V2 headphones, bargain gaming headset, got it. Also a best award, 4.5 out of 5 stars. That was very much liked. There's also the new, I don't know how you pronounce the name, Absolute, I think it's called, but S9 mobile gaming controller. So this is one of those things that's a controller and you snap your phone in between it, locks in. That also got a really good review, and they're kind of a new company. We had the Shure MV6 USB microphone review came out. We gave out a couple Editor's Choice. The Obsbot Tiny SE webcam is a $100 webcam. Obsbot makes these cool webcams that are they like have little motors in them and they can follow and track you around the room, which is kind of nice. So they're kind of like advanced, but for $100, This one got an outstanding review. We also reviewed the HP EliteBook Ultra 14 G1i. Speaking of names, let's break that down. All right, so it's HP. Obviously, EliteBook is their business laptops.
Mm-hmm.
Ultra is the highest tier that they sell of that. So you know you're getting the top tier. There's no business laptop higher than this. 14 is the 14-inch display. G1i, G1 is first generation, and the I means it's running Intel. So that means that they could be a G1A and there could be a G1Q. Or, yeah, I think it's for Qualcomm. Maybe they do Snapdragon. Yeah, I think they use Q for Qualcomm. ROG Ally battery upgrade kit. If you have an ROG Ally handheld, you probably know the battery life is not amazing, but you can replace it with a much bigger battery. In fact, it increases it by 62%. But as you can imagine, it's a tricky install. So if you're comfortable doing that, that's fine. The Geekom IT13, another mini PC review we did, is out there. That also got a best award. So we have a lot of mini PCs that we've covered. I think that's about it as far as the kind of cool stuff. Speaking of taking stuff apart, I've been kind of proud of myself. I manned up this week, and I've been fixing my lawnmower, which
nice.
It freaked me out because my neighbor, when I was a kid, she was working on her lawnmower and the blade went off and she lost a finger.
Oh my God.
And I was probably like 8.
That's traumatizing.
Yeah. So I'm like, is like the finger just in the yard? You know, and then I would see her and she would always have that missing finger. And I was like, it was just creepy as a kid, right? You're fascinated by that stuff. So, but I had to replace the blade. I worked on the engine itself. Today I'm going to drain the oil. So I'm learning a lot. But the good news, of course, is we live in amazing times. You just got to go on YouTube. There's a video for everything. Like you can literally do everything these days if you just take the time and go on YouTube. So that's been kind of fun. But that's my life. Anyways, those are the reviews. Go check them out. You can just go to windowscentral.com/reviews if you want to go check out everything we have. But and more coming next week, including a few more laptops. Speaking of, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I ordered the XP Pen Magic Pad. I believe that was the name of it. It's a very weird name, XP Pen Magic Pad. Oh, come on. Yes. Oh, is it Magic Drawing Pad? No, it's not the Magic Drawing Pad. Hold on. Sorry, I gotta get the right name.
You don't even know what the name of the product is you bought?
Well, it is one of those. Oh, it's called Magic Notepad. There we go. Okay, so the reason I got this was because Amazon with the Kindle stuff, they were locking it down a little bit more. They're preventing you from like copying, taking books off your Kindle and transferring it from your PC and all that kind of stuff. So it's fine. I love my Kindle though. Like I really liked it. I have no issues fundamentally with it. But this thing is neat because it's technically powered by, it's running Android 14. It gets really good battery life, surprisingly. Like it lasts me the week. But what makes it interesting is it has this 3-in-1 X paper, they call it. And so it has a button on top. And when you press it, you get a little menu choice. And you have full color, you have e-ink color, and then you just have e-ink as choices. And it's not obviously e-ink, it's just an LCD display. But when you choose, e-ink, it looks like all of a sudden you're looking like at an e-ink screen. Or if you choose the color one, the colors are a little bit more washed out, look like color e-ink. And it's just really neat if you're going to be reading a book and stuff like that. It gives you that total effect. I think it's also a little bit better for battery life, kind of hard to say. But you're getting the benefits of the fact that this has a, I think the display is up to 90 hertz refresh. So you can get a pretty good refresh rate on this. If you have e-ink like a Kindle, the refresh rate's terrible on it. It's like, I don't know, like 1, but it's gives you all that. It has a pen built into it, and it comes with the cover and all that kind of stuff. And I got it when the price, they had an introductory price. I think it was like $3.99 or something like that. And now it's gone up a bit. Oh no, it's back down to $3.99. Yeah, and it comes with 18-month warranty. They do up to a month return, so long as it's not damaged. but the features of it are pretty good. The display's like resolution, I forgot what it is, but it's pretty high. But I've been loving it. So what this has allowed me to do, of course, is you can just run the Kindle app on it. So I get all my Kindle books that way. But there are some really good third-party e-reader apps from Android that you can just download and install. And so now I have a lot of my books I put into my OneDrive. And then I just go into OneDrive, download them to my device, and this thing automatically detects it, and boom, I got my books. But the reason I kind of wanted this too was because I mentioned Copilot. I use it all the time. A lot of times I'm reading a book, I want to look up something. And with a Kindle, you can only do kind of basic lookup stuff, right? It has its built-in own web browser and all that kind of stuff. But with this, I get like the full power of an operating system. So I can go right into Copilot, look up stuff, go on the web. I can look at images, do all that kind of stuff, save things, highlight it. And you just get a lot more flexibility with it. So I've been in love with this thing. I think it's been really cool. It has basically replaced my Kindle at this point. It's also stripped down. There's obviously not a lot to the, they don't put a lot of bloatware and stuff in there, but it's just been really easy to use. It's been reliable. It's gotten a couple updates already. The pen is really good on it. It does have tilt support, 16,000 pressure levels for the pen. Actually, I do find, I would say the Kindle note-taking experience a little bit better in terms of the feel of the actual pen. But again, with Android, you have way more app options that you can use. And there's some really good apps out there that have AI and stuff built into it that you can take advantage of. So that's the Magic Notepad from XP Pen. Quite a few reviews of it out there already. So you can go out there. I know TechRadar, I think, did one, and it got really good reviews, but $3.99. If you're looking to get away from Kindle or want something different, that's a little bit more powerful. I would check this out. Now, it runs Android, that's fine. Would be better if it ran Windows. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say no to it running Windows, but we're getting to the whole issue again that Windows is probably a little too overkill. Microsoft still needs a lighter operating system for a device like this. And, I feel like I could technically use my Surface like this, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same. What do you think about this device?
I think it's interesting. I've never been a huge digital inking person though, so I don't see value in a device like this personally. If I'm going to be writing with a pen, something's gone wrong because I just prefer writing with a keyboard. So yeah, I've never been a huge pen user. Even with the Duo, I rarely used it. But to be fair on that device, the pen wasn't very well implemented anyway. But yeah, I'm daily driving the Galaxy S25 Ultra right now. Do I use the pen on it? Basically, never. I sometimes use it to doodle, but that's when I'm bored. But I don't take notes with it. I'm either if I'm listening to a briefing or conducting an interview or something, I will use a voice recorder and just go back and transcribe it later. Or if I need to take notes, I will quite literally just write it down in like a the notes app or whatever.
Yeah, I totally see that. I'm like a pro typist, meaning I use my hands appropriately. I don't hunt and peck. So I'm not really fast at typing. So yeah, I see that advantage. But there is something I like about note taking that just feels kind of natural, nice. And with the technology now, be able to convert your handwriting to print or using AI and different ways. Like you can a lot of these apps now, you can record the audio and then it'll transcribe it with AI, but you can also take notes at the same time. Like there's just a lot more flexibility, and then you can export it. So I do like it for that. And when I'm like traveling, going to events, but like I said, most of the time I'm using it right now just as an e-reader, and I'm just really liking the experience of it. So there we go. The other thing I got, the Asus A14 ZenBook. So we already reviewed this. It's already up on the site. Zachary Body did a review, gave it a very high score. This is the one that at CES we were all kind of really excited about. It's a pretty light device. It's 2.3 pounds, but that's with the bigger battery in it. It's like a 70 watt-hour battery, which is pretty good size. This is the first laptop that they've made that's all aluminum, which is their proprietary material that they invented. That's it's kind of hard to describe, but everybody that I give this laptop to likes the way it feels. It also has a kind of a cool beige color, at least the one I got. What makes it interesting, though, we were more excited about it in January because it's announced that this version was going to be $899, and it runs a Qualcomm Snapdragon X Plus chip, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 storage. It has a full HD OLED display that is a really good display that's completely color accurate. It's very bright, very punchy. And it's got a really good webcam on it, considering. But for $899, like this was just like a lot of laptop that just felt super premium. Like you can open it easily with one hand. And so I got that in. And so the question was like, did I overhype it myself? Am I gonna like? I freaking love it. It's really, really good. So it is now selling for $999. So they jacked up the price by $100, but there could be sales coming up for it. So stick around for that. But if you're looking for a laptop, this thing gets like incredible battery life. Like last night, I think it was a 78% battery and still said that I had like 10 and a half hours left. Now I'm still kind of going through that phase of, using it and got to balance out the battery and everything. So I'll get an actual figure later on, but they quote the battery at like 23 hours or something like that. Like if you only get 15 hours out of it, like that's still an insane, but the display is really good. The keyboard is really great. I mean, just very soft. I love touching it, typing on it. Trackpad is good. I wish it was a haptic. Of course, it's not, but it's a very good one. Speakers are surprisingly good too, right? This is an area Asus has always been kind of weak in. They are like on the bottom edge, I think. So they're not top firing, which I would have appreciated, but they're good. Like I like them. And they have like some really cool features with AI and all that kind of stuff. The webcam is great on that. So I'll be doing like a hands-on post of some photos of that real soon. But that's the ZenBook A14. Originally called the ZenBook Air 14, but their lawyers prevented them from calling it that. So they just call it the A14. But it's, I think, one of my favorite laptops. And it's just been the Snapdragon X Plus has been fantastic in it. Excellent performance. And that has all the, because it's on release preview, it has all the Copilot features on there, which has been pretty awesome. So that's cool. Look forward to that. The other thing I was going to talk about, which it hasn't showed up yet, but they're shipping it to me. I just got word of it today. It's a company called Aura, A-U-R-A, and they have a thing that they just announced called the Triple Boost 14-inch Pro. I know it's not an amazing one, but it's a triple screen add-on for your laptop. So when you travel, this thing unfolds and it gives you 3 screens, one for each side of your laptop, and then one that goes basically on top of your display for your laptop, which is a really cool layout. It's like a cockpit, right? So it has like a kickstand built into it. There's nothing you attach to your laptop, which is great. You just put your display to the back of it and you get this thing and it wraps around. What's amazing is it has a single cable that's just USB Type-C. And so you don't even need Thunderbolt. So this should absolutely work with the laptop I just described with Qualcomm. I should be able to plug it in and have no problem running 3 displays. They're full HD, 14-inch, anti-glare monitors. So this is really ideal for working kind of thing. But the displays can like fold in and out. So like you can like fold them out and around. So like if you're in a meeting or a presentation, you can show other people your display without like moving your laptop around, which is kind of cool. But go check it out. It's on, like I said, if you just type in Aura Triple Boost 14-inch, you'll probably be blown away. Everybody I showed it to is just like, oh my God, it looks awesome. Because we've seen this stuff before. We've seen companies try to do this like idea of like attaching other displays to your laptop for when you travel. And they've all been kind of gimmicky. They just don't look as good. I remember I tried one a couple years ago. You literally had to like stick it to the back of the lid of your laptop, which was just not something I love doing. And then the display would slide out from it. So it made your laptop heavier and bulkier like all the time. Like it's separate. It's a separate device. It has its own kickstand. It weighs 4.7 pounds, so it's not super light, but it's 3 displays. But it folds in on itself to protect it for when you travel. Because that's the other issue. Zach and I were just talking about that before the call, which is I have single screen portable ones, which became a big thing. And they're really nice, but they're super fragile. It's a piece of glass that's super thin, right? So even if you put it in your backpack, you got to be worried about that, putting it down. If you put it in your suitcase, which I did once, I put in my suitcase and I switched rooms at this hotel. So literally it was 10 minutes and it cracked from that. So they're very delicate. So I'm a little hesitant sometimes to travel with them because of that. But this thing, like I'll just throw it into my suitcase. But because of the way it folds in on itself, it's made from aluminum. So it's going to be it should be a lot more sturdy. Should solve that problem. But the idea of having 4 displays now for when, working in a hotel room for me is just like the dream, because I've worked behind like a 32-inch 6K display plus a secondary full HD one. So when I go back to a laptop, it's a little bit challenging for me to do work sometimes, or I'm not as used to it. But with this thing, yeah, I could put Slack in one window, Telegram in the other window, Word in one window, and the web in the other. Like, that's just awesome, right? Like, shoot, I would want to work like that all the time. So I'll be doing like a review of it. But it looks like a really cool device, and it's a new company. I think they've been around for a while. I think they have other products, but I don't know. Should be interesting. But you can order that now. It's what was the price for it? It's $469. So it's not super cheap, but it's like retail price is $650. But so it's $469. But you're getting 3 displays. So for $469. So I think that's something. Zach, what do you think about this?
I think it's really cool. I think if you brought that out in like a Starbucks, people would be like, "What the hell?" But
Yeah.
I think my mind gets cast back to when we're in like media rooms and things like Build, and I think I remember one of the hilarious picture I remember seeing of you and me with a Surface Go, and you with that 16-inch LG Gram.
No, 18-inch.
18-inch LG Gram. Just the sheer comparison. I'm happy working on a smaller device if I need to. I'm not too bothered about it, especially when I'm traveling. I'd actually prefer smaller and lighter. So yeah, I can't see myself bringing along 3 screens for my laptop in any scenario, really.
Well, yeah, you don't do management.
No, it's true. I don't do management. I have one window, and it's just for writing, and that's what I want to look at.
Yeah, and like some of the guys were joking around. They're like, oh, must kill your battery life. Yeah, probably, but you're not going to use this like in your lap without your laptop being plugged in, right? So like, I doubt you'd use this at Starbucks. You're not going to use it on the airplane, obviously, but that's kind of the beauty of it, is I can just take whatever laptop I want. So if I want my smaller one, or, I've been really big fan of the ThinkPad X9 15-inch, right? I could just take that, use it for all those situations. But when I get to the hotel and I want to sit down and get real work done, boom, I sit in front of this thing. Now I got a real work environment, throw a mouse on there. Like, that's a cool setup, right? So yeah, not everybody needs this, obviously, but if you're in management or you're doing creativity things where you need multiple windows open at the same time, this looks like the first solution to this problem that looks realistic to me. Like, that actually makes sense without compromise. And the fact that it just uses a Type-C cable and doesn't need Thunderbolt. I think they do have a driver I think you need to install, because they have their own chip that they made for it to kind of make this happen, I think. But I think that's pretty cool. It seems like a big step forward for this kind of stuff. So, but there you go. So I think that about does it. Will, do you have a thing of the week you want to talk about? Someone mentioned Andor and how I look like I'm getting ready for the. I'm dressed like him. Like, no joke. I dig Diego Luna's style for Andor. Like, the way he looks, like, dresses. Hell yeah. If I can look like that all the time, sure. I didn't finish season 1, which I know is pretty sacrilege. Wow. I know. But I got to catch up on that. I am excited about catching season 2, which is apparently is getting phenomenal reviews. I heard that they may release the first 3 episodes in theaters, and I also heard that they're trying to get the last 3 episodes in theaters that segues directly into Rogue One.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I've not seen any of season 2 yet, so I'm excited to get started on it. Yeah.
Anything else for you that you can recommend?
No, I haven't got a thing of the week. I'm just trying to think. I've not done anything. I've just been working. So
okay, I got 2 movies that I saw. One, I saw Monkey, which was that horror movie that based on the Stephen King's book, Monkey Shines. Came out a few months ago. Hilarious. If you like, it's a horror movie, but not a scary horror movie. It's a kind of comedic horror movie.
Yeah.
And it has an awesome cast in it. The cinematography was great. I was dying. Some of the scenes were so funny, and it was a cool story. And it was only like 90 minutes. It's not a long commit, but it's one of those movies that should have done, I think, better than it should have in theaters. But a lot of fun if you like having kind of like silly kind of violence. Recommend that one. I also watched a real independent sci-fi film that I have not heard of called Ash. So this just premiered, and it's not playing in many places. This is a super kind of low budget sci-fi movie. In fact, the director, his name is Flying Lotus, who I've never heard of, but he's a rapper, and he does like a bunch of things. He's a very creative human being, and so like he's put out many albums, and he's like directed videos, and he, I guess, directed this movie. I think he wrote it. He did a soundtrack for it, which is really good. It's very synthy. In fact, the whole movie is almost a tribute to now I'm forgetting his name. The guy that did the thing, but it's a very much tribute to that. But what's cool is like he taught himself. He's like that younger generation. I don't know how old he is, probably his 30s, but like he taught himself video editing, and like the way they shot this, like with just a couple of cameras and just the lighting that they did, it makes up like the atmosphere for it, the cinematography, all that was really, really cool. And just it's I think one review I saw put it perfectly. It's like the plot itself is fine. It's pretty standard, sci-fi kind of thing, but due to the cinematography, the way it looks, the design, the music, and everything else, it elevates the movie to like a new level that's very memorable. So that's called Ash. I go look for it. It's also like 90 minutes long, so it's not very long, but definitely worth a check out. And I don't know, I like those kind of independent type movies. So there we go. Okay, if that's it, we're gonna wrap it up. We'll shoot to some questions and comments, of course. We're doing that for the live podcast, but if you're not listening to us live, you can join us usually Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel, where we do broadcast this live. Otherwise, you can hit me up on Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, whatever. Just look for Daniel Rubino. Same thing with Zac Bowden. I don't use it as much as I should. In fact, I've been missing questions. I'm really just off social media these days, but I will get to it within a couple of days usually. So I'll try to be better with that stuff. As always, though, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care, everyone.
Excellent. So yes, if there are any questions, please do put them in the chat now. If there are no questions, we will leave. Speaking of the Windows operating system jingles, what do you think of the Windows 95 startup sound composed by Brian Eno now being in the Library of Congress? I don't know what the Library of Congress is. I'm going to look it up.
Library of Congress is it's an archive for culturally important, relevant things, like things that have made an impact on culture that are like to be forever remembered, basically.
I think that's cool and rightly deserved. I think everyone can, when you are asked to imagine the Windows 95 startup sound, you can imagine it.
Yeah, it's iconic, right? Anything that's iconic kind of goes into that library. So yeah, I think it definitely fits.
Although I would argue, I think the Windows XP startup sound is probably more iconic. So I'm surprised that didn't also get added. Any news on who will have the next gen Snapdragon chip first? Is it exclusive to Surface, or will we see Dell HP have it also? I don't think it'll be exclusive to Surface. So the Snapdragon X1 wasn't. The X1 launched in a bunch of devices on day one. So no, there won't be an exclusivity window. Surface may be the first available. I don't know. I don't know if they're planning another big push like they did last year. But we do know that the chip will be announced or roughly announced sometime in September or maybe early October, and should be available very shortly thereafter. And so we could start seeing the first devices ship as soon as October, November, assuming tariffs don't change that. But yeah.
Yep.
Any news on Surface Laptop Studio 3? Unfortunately not. If we are getting one, we'll probably hear about it in October. But that's a big if. I mean, I know they were working on one at one point. They were working on a 14 and a 16-inch version. But the whereabouts of that is currently unknown. A lot has obviously changed in the Surface team in the last couple of years, or just a bit over a year. And so, yeah, that may be.
I predicted 2 sizes.
Yeah. It does make sense, but I think the problem they might be having is what chip do they put in there? Because if they wanted to have a dedicated GPU, it needs to be at the very least an Intel chip or an AMD chip. I don't know if it'll be AMD, but if it's an Intel chip, which Intel chip? Because it also needs to be a Copilot Plus PC. Microsoft won't ship a PC if it's not Copilot Plus now. And so Intel Lunar Lake, as far as I'm aware, is not a great option if you want to also include a dedicated GPU. So, yeah.
When or if ever do you think a phone plus dock will become a standard workstation? What is missing now to have that happen? Yeah, this goes back to, I mean, the Windows Phone days, of course, with Continuum. It's one of those ideas, just like DeX is for Samsung, that sounds like it should work and that should be more popular than it is, and it just isn't. I think sometimes people just like having a dedicated device for one thing, and so I think people are used to just having laptops and prefer working on that, which is why also I don't think people are going to have Vision Pro headsets as a computer in the future either. Like maybe like a small niche of people who are engineers, or like there'll be a group that might use it, but like I don't think in the future people are just going to be having goggles on their heads.
Unless you go to CES. I saw so many people walking around with Vision Pros at CES. It was crazy.
Gross. Yeah, those are like I mean, people are going to try to make it work, but I don't think it's going to work, right? But then again, why if displays get small enough, like if they make contacts that could be your computer display, like, okay. But like, I mean, will I see that in my lifetime? I don't think so. So I just don't see this happening. I don't know. I mean, the beauty of having a laptop is it's an all-in-one. It's the display, the CPU, the keyboard, everything is right there. Just throw it in your bag and you're gone. If you have a dock and something at work, it's like, what are you going to use on an airplane? This kind of stuff in travel. It just seems a lot more limiting. Maybe someday they will have holographic projector that projects a display in front of you. Like if that happens, sure. So I think it would take some really game-changing technology, but I think we're pretty far from that.
Yeah. Will the upcoming 12-inch Surface Pro and the Pro 12 still reflect Panos' influence, or was he not involved at all? As far as I'm aware, Panos would have been part of the conversation with the upcoming smaller surfaces, as well as the next-gen Surface Pro. I think the next-gen Surface Pro, the Surface Pro 12, will probably be the last device that he was involved with, and then from Surface Pro 13 onwards and Laptop 9 onwards, I think that's when we're treading into new territory that isn't Panos influenced. But yeah, he was, to my knowledge, aware of the Pro, everything up to the Pro 12 and the Laptop 8, including these upcoming smaller Surface devices. They were all birthed and sort of pushed forward under him.
That makes sense. Yeah, I agree with you. Because these devices are thought out at least 1 or 2 years in advance.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
There may have been changes, but I think the basic concepts, will definitely be Panos stuff. 2 questions from Faruna. How silent and cool is that Asus? I'm talking about the ZenBook A14. Both silent and cool. So what's kind of neat about it, they actually have a what's the key command? I think it's function. If you hit FN by the space bar in F for fan, you can cycle through 4 fan modes. One is like performance, one is like which is not the highest. There's one that's like, I think you set the fan for like high, and then there's like normal, and then there's quiet. So you can control the fan easily, depending on what you want, which is nice. But even the only time I've heard it is like I'm doing a Windows update or something like that, and you can hear it, but it's very quiet. I think there's only one fan for it, so I don't even think there's two, but it's very quiet. But like I put it on silent a lot of times, and it doesn't get hot. Qualcomm devices just they have much better thermals than Intel, so while they can get warm technically, you will never feel it. So I think it's great. It's been great for that. Do you think the Snapdragon's working, Qualcomm's working on a Pro version of their X, so Snapdragon X Pro? Yeah, I think so. In fact, what is it now? Snapdragon X Elite. I could imagine a Pro and maybe even an Ultra. I don't see why they wouldn't have that, because all this is really about is scaling up cores, right? That's the whole beauty of the platform that they made, is you can add or remove cores, and been saying that from the beginning, that they could just scale down, and that's what they did. For the Snapdragon X chip, right? Which is technically the Plus chip. It just has like, they don't want to call it lower bins, but technically it is. But some clock rates are a little bit different. But they could definitely scale up the chip to add. They're at what, 12 cores for the Elite, so I imagine they would probably go to, they go 14, 16, probably 18 cores. Like, why not, right? I'm pretty sure they want to go there, and maybe we'll see it with the next gen stuff.
I think we will. I think desktop, pushing into desktops will be focus for next gen, and so that will include a higher tier chip above Elite.
Especially like all-in-one PCs. It's kind of like really ideal for.
Okay, last call for questions. If there are no more, we will say our farewells.
Okay.
Yep. Cool. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll maybe back next week. If not, we'll definitely be back the week after. Follow us on the socials. We'll keep you updated on if we're going live. If we are, we'll be on the Thursday or the Friday, but we'll let you know. But yes, until then, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.